Now, as you walk along the corridor leading to the garden, you'll see some artwork on the wall. Start with two photographs of the back of a man standing on a subway platform in Seoul, hunched over his phone, and the back of a woman sitting alone somewhere, also seemingly listening to something on her device. Raving by Nakyoung Sung, also known as Nakyeon, features a music mix and a poster series, a melange of platformed realities. With gentle humor, the artist points to the paradoxical pointlessness of digital connectivity and isolation, its empty plenitude. Then with Hyung-woo Lee, we get to delve further into inner worlds by peeling back the superficial lyricism of objects to arrive at the world of what he calls the there is. The untitled, made of thinly shaven hinoki wood, transfers the unseen into the visible, where the durational constancy of the wood is reconstructively restored.
In this context, you really had an idea of the world, of the multitude of people that is actually making the world, and how small we become in front of this huge humanity.
Every face, every image differs from one another, right?
Yeah.
Because it's identity, right?
Yeah.
Not only the questions of individuality and collectivity and the crowd and multitude, as you say, but also questions of identity.
So what it was fascinating me is the concept of botari. Could you tell us more about it?
Butari is a bag, it's a bundle, but it's instant, right? So it's not like a carrier bag that's pre-made. Butari is like something that you can just make right away. Anything can become butari, right?
Yeah.
They just wrap it and then just take it away. So this is a mobile you, in a way. So it's like a universe, can be wrapped.
Also, those photos are so incredibly powerful, and they are so simple, very essential. This is exactly what I found as well in the work of the Botari.
These two works work very well together, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah, they're really having a peculiar dialogue as well with the venue. It's really also interesting to have those works of glass. You almost have the feeling that the shape is kind of slowly rising out from the piece of glass, giving a birth almost. Yeah. And also this is a kind of a surface, a kind of dark water. It's incredible. You just think that it's a metal, but it's not, it's a canvas. And it's gold, and gold is usually a metaphor of spirituality. Yeah, it looks a little bit like a piece that you have found by digging.
It's like a tablet, right?
Yes,
It's a tablet,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
And you see this sort of the verbal and the visual and the sculptural all come together, and so and along the historical line that goes beyond the historic. So imagine looking at future reality from 5,000 years. And so then we become this object.
Yes.
So this is a doubling of the archaeological timeline. Here, drawing attention to this right now, like the ecological crisis and how our life is really falling apart. So the words are very, I mean, this is like, almost sort of dinner table conversation. Like things that you said, like, we create this monster called capitalism. Chung Seoyoung's evidence of visual interplay is a photograph that shows a hand holding two pens, crumpled pieces of paper, leaves and branches, all of them at once. Tight connections between those elements and objects become instant and intuitive. Choi Jeong Hwa's Nature Nurture is an installation that defamiliarizes our binary frames and habits. A symbiotic continuity among things and beings in the world extends to the world of plastics, including its afterlives. 아리랑 by Ik-Joong Kang is a collection of drawings by individuals displaced and wounded by wars and global conflicts, who still harbor hopes and desires for peace. Looking around and through this moving quilt, the viewers too witness collective visions for coexistence. Hwayeon Nam, whose work traverses archival boundaries, presents A Garden in Italy. The title is drawn from a 1936 record by modern dancer Seung-hee Choi. Originally presented in 2019, A Garden in Italy features photographs of about 10 blooming plants among other archival materials, and in the background we hear quiet playbacks of Seung-hee Choi's voice recordings. Now we enter, enjoy, and will eventually exit the transparent pavilion by our labor. At the end of this mini journey through various landscapes of contemporary Korean art, we can now sit and chat in this loose and more open-ended replica of the Korean pavilion. We can reflect on the past, present, and future of Korean art, or nothing at all. Anyone is invited to sit under a reflective ceiling that reflects everybody visiting this open sanctuary of hospitality, the Mini Korean Pavilion 2024 at the Ordine di Malta, this beautiful Palazzo in Venice. So what do you think?
I think it's really an interesting exhibition. It's a good way to go through 30 years of the pavilion and try to understand the achievements and the changes that the society has undergone, and how the artist has basically digested those moments and leaving us those traces, not just to the world but also to the posterity. And another thing which I really like is how essential the artists are. It's like, getting to a sort of very concrete, at the same time very spiritual alphabet that you are directly absorbing. For example, also those stones over there, they are telling you so many things, and we are watching them from far away, and they seem like to be, this kind of an archaic composition coming from the past. And then nearer you get, you discover what kind of material is made of. And all these kind of problematics that are related to our today life in the world, an emergency and the urgency. But it's done in such a poetic way. It's extremely poetic, and you are just falling inside of the world.
One of the key things that we've been talking about, this really interesting Korean, if you like, dialectic between the individuality and collectivity, not conformity. I was so glad to see this. This is the original piece from the 1995. Kalpa/Sound, What Marco Polo Left Behind, is an installation and performance piece by Kwak Hoon, one of the 4 artists from 1995. It involves dagon playing, a Korean flute, and 20 Buddhist nuns marching with earthenware pots hung in a row on pine poles, which altogether resembles a large flute on the go. This work, installed and performed in the small yard outside the Korean pavilion at the time, amplifies the power of worldly and otherworldly connections on a spiritual level. In this different context, not in pavilion, but in Palazzo di Malta, right? And now, but this one was also, for instance, was outside the actual Korean pavilion building per se. It was in the yard, right? I don't want to sort of make too much of an allegorical point about this, but there's something very important about that porosity between inside and outside. And this one too, right? This very metallic, very porous structure. This one coexists, kind of exists with that piece and all of this, and so it gives different vibes. And so it's the kind of openness, right, to the receptivity to the influences and be able to anchor oneself, right?
I think it's very fascinating actually to study the history and the developments of every singular pavilion. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about the country, but also you learn a lot about the changes, not just that in the country are happening, but generally speaking in the art world. And this is very helpful to get out of this European Western-centric culture in order to kind of approach and understand what is actually the background of other artists, which somehow, you know, we are basically at the moment living in a globalized world where it's really hard to say this is a Korean artist or is a French artist or if an African artist. But often there are certain little elements, little smells that are telling you about a certain tradition that made the background of the artist, and this is fantastic when you just discover it and you get deeper inside of those elements because they are opening your horizon.
I think it's really also about the authenticity of one's own experience and the context and how artists really explore their own identity.